Abiding in Christ by practicing spiritual disciplines is the focus of the sessions phase of the retreat. The components of a session are guidance, engaging the gospel narrative through spiritual practice, reflection, and holy conversation. Guidance. Each session begins with information that prepares retreatants for engaging the gospel story through spiritual practice. In the first session, the guidance includes a reading of the focus passage. This introduction to the story in which participants will be immersed also includes whatever social, cultural, historical, geographical, or literary context they need to grasp the plot, visualize the setting, identify with the characters, and feel the conflict. Other elements of guidance for both the initial and subsequent sessions may include instructions for practicing the spiritual discipline, definitions of unfamiliar terms, demystifying symbols, exploration of the retreat's theme, and highlighting connections between the gospel story, the spiritual practice, and the theme. Spiritual practice. In session 1, retreatants practice a discipline that involves them with the entire focus story. Two examples of such practices are Lectio Divina and the Ignatian prayer method. To learn more about these practices, click on the links in today's folder. In addition, the handout Resources for Retreat Leadership in the Course Materials folder can point you to information about a wide range of spiritual practices. Beginning with session 2, the spiritual practices are both grounded in the narrative and expressive of the theme. They may center on specific characters, small portions of the passage, or a single phrase, image, or idea. For example, in the retreat Praying with Mary and Martha, from Luke 10, verses 38 through 42, the retreatants engaged in the following spiritual practices. In session 1, Lectio Divina. In session 2, guided meditation that invited retreatants to imagine the story from Martha's point of view. They replicated the pattern of prayer reflected in Mary's conversation with Jesus to discover their own lament and release it to God. Session 3, Silence and Solitude, that made space for retreatants to take on Mary's sitting at Jesus' feet posture for listening prayer. They practiced an exercise in listening to God, asking God to reveal the one thing necessary for their continued spiritual growth. As you discern the disciplines the retreatants will practice, keep what you know of them in mind as you name the practices. Provide written instructions or worksheets as necessary to facilitate the practice of the discipline. Reflection. The third movement in a retreat session is reflection, quiet and alone time for retreatants to ponder and record how they encountered Jesus through the spiritual practice. Journaling, jotting down notes, making art, and answering guiding questions are among the approaches to reflection. The length of the reflection time depends on your discernment of the group. Reflection in session 1 may be short, 2 or 3 minutes, with progressively longer silences in the following sessions. The reflection in the concluding session offers extended time at least 30 minutes to practice such disciplines as the Examen or Lectio on Life. With these practices, retreatants prayerfully revisit their experience of abiding with Jesus and each other. In silence and solitude, they note the gifts they received and the challenges they encountered. They notice the insights gained and the questions that remain. They consider how God is calling them to move forward in response to their time of retreat. Holy conversation is sharing reflections one with one or in the retreat community. During the retreat orientation, retreatants were grouped into duos for these times of sharing. In each session, these pairs come together to converse about how they are experiencing God. In session number 1, the Holy Listening exercise serves as guidance that prepares retreatants for their first conversation. The handout, Adapting the Holy Listening exercise for retreats, provides detailed instructions on guiding retreatants toward listening with hospitality and speaking with authenticity. Beginning in session 2, retreatants continue to follow the holy listening process to share their reflections on spiritual practice one-on-one. Remember, I welcome your questions. Please email them to me or post them on the discussion board. I continue to pray for you as you continue to explore your call to retreat ministry.